Entrepreneurship can be really hard, and when you're doing it by yourself, trying to navigate the terrain, it can almost be impossible. That's why we created the Entrepreneur Circle. Every episode, you're going to hear from incredible entrepreneurs who are in the same trenches that you are in. And we're going to talk through what's working, what's not working, whether it be in marketing, finance, or anything in between. We're here to talk business and figure out how each of us can rise together. So welcome to the circle. Let's dig in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Entrepreneur Circle. We're going to do it a little differently today. There is a lot going on in the world, and I know sometimes we go off the cuff and we do some different types of interviews. Today is something you're probably going to see more and more frequently as we continue this series of Entrepreneur Circle. I have been doing a lot of research on consumer trends, especially during these turbulent times, because it's not only affecting our personal lives as far as raising prices, gas prices, grocery prices, etc., literally everywhere, but it's going to impact our businesses, and it is impacting our businesses. And I think it's important to have a source that discusses this instead of running from it. We need to address it and look at it and kind of look at the foresight of what we can do today to mitigate the impact tomorrow if we are going to have something turbulent happen. So I want today to be focused on a study by Deloitte. Essentially, Deloitte has looked at how consumer behavior has been evolving, specifically in the months of April and May of 2026. As you guys recall, it was, I believe, February 28th when the strikes happened against Iran. Since then, we've seen a lot of ups and downs, and I'm sure our own personal sentiments reflect what the public is feeling. It's to keep it simple, it's uncertainty. What they found in April and May, as the dust has settled and as these continuous, news and things that are happening keep coming up, there is some solid facts that we can turn to determine how things are going to be moving. So I want you to know this as a business. You need to understand that consumers aren't broke yet, but consumers are bracing for it. There is a fear of what's coming, and it's changing their behavior before things actually are getting worse, which is interesting because in economics, it's all a cycle. If the perception that recession is coming or something bad is coming is there, then people's behavior alone could be the one thing that actually makes that manifest into a real situation. And I think that's what we see here. There is a lot of fear behind purchasing behavior, behind how businesses are moving. This is specifically important for business to business companies. There is a fear, and whether or not things really are going to be getting worse is less of an issue, because if people believe that it's getting worse and they start choking their wallet and they start pulling their investments from the market, that itself is going to lead to a higher chance of recession. So this is a moment where we need to pause as business owners and be cognizant of how spending is changing. Gas prices, grocery prices are causing anxiety. They're at a 3-year high. People have pulled back on discretionary spending, which is, what they're spending for fun. They pulled back on that pretty dramatically in March. And even essential spending, so housing, healthcare, it's starting to plateau after a really strong 2025. And really, I think it's just a reflection of how people are emotionally tightening before they have to financially tighten. This is a critical distinction because it means that the window to win their loyalty is right now before that squeeze really hits. So we have an opportunity as business owners right now to determine how this is going to play out for us. I'm going to go through different industries, okay? Because I know we have a wide variety of businesses that listen. I am going to go through retail and e-commerce, food and beverage or restaurants. I'm going to go through health and wellness, home and lifestyle, beauty and personal care, and services and coaching or consulting. We're going to go through each one of these industries to see how this moment is shaping up for our respective industries. And maybe it's interesting to you because maybe you're in one of those industries, or maybe you serve one of those industries or multiple of those industries. And it's important because it's all interconnected. It's all a domino effect. So let's start with retail and e-commerce. Discretionary spending dipped hard in March and only partially recovered in April. People are still buying, right? They're still going out there and making purchases, but they're taking longer to decide. They're taking longer to finally give their credit card because they're comparing more. They're comparing products. They're doing more research. They're honestly using a lot more AI, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, to compare products, because at this point, we are now at the point where our AI models have gotten to know us and it is now recommending. I called this out probably 6 months ago, and this is happening right now. Maybe even I think it's probably 9 months to a year ago now is when we started talking about how people who are getting ahead of building their authority as a business will win because AI will recommend you. The people who did that and took that seriously are coming up in those searches, just so you know. It's not too late. If you have questions on this, my team does this. We are happy to help you. But that is a different conversation. I want you to understand that people are comparing you more than they ever have to other businesses. They're looking for the products that they can trust. So when they add things to the cart, there's a lot of abandoned cart opportunity here. There is a higher uptick in people adding things to their cart and then leaving. You have an opportunity, if you don't already, to create an automation for abandoned cart. Go do that. Abandoned carts and longer sales cycles are going to be a symptom of this. So if you have prospects and people that have been considering your products, it depends on if you're higher ticket or if it's a smaller ticket, but this is a time where your attention in this longer sales cycle is going to pay off. So just know that. Let's take a look at restaurants, food and beverage. So groceries actually rebounded in April, which is good news. People are cooking at home more. I will say I am definitely cooking at home more and being more intentional of how I am getting groceries. I think we used to waste a whole lot of food. And lately, it just doesn't feel like that's wise. It was never wise. But it really puts it into perspective when grocery bills are, up 50%. I don't think it's 50%. That's being dramatic, but it's definitely apparent in our household as well. When you look at restaurants, specifically the mid-range ones, they're feeling the squeeze because consumers are choosing between like an $18 meal out or ingredients for the week. And with people eating at home more, restaurants are seeing lower volume. So this fast casual is holding and full service dining is vulnerable. So sit down restaurants, you might be feeling it more. Right now, I think this is a time to lean into deals, family dinner nights, kids eat free, something to think about to drive people in. Now is the time to do that because again, we are at a little bit of a tipping point right now where people are, again, emotionally tightening. So if you can get in their hearts and minds right now, that is going to help a lot. If that does indeed happen where people need to start really doubling down financially, you want to be in their mind as one of the places that is cognizant of that and serving, no pun intended, but serving people in that world so that they don't feel it as much. Right? Let's take a look at health and wellness. So healthcare spending fell, which sounds counterintuitive, but it means people are delaying non-urgent care, skipping their supplements. They're cutting back on wellness extras like premium gym memberships or therapy apps. I know peptides are huge right now. And honestly, in my personal circle, it doesn't feel like that's going down. I feel like everyone I know is on a peptide. Interesting stuff happening in that world, but it is interesting because you look at the basics that stay, the things that people feel like they need, and then the nice to haves are kind of on the chopping block. So if you are in the health and wellness space, if you are a personal trainer, if you sell supplements, now's the time to really pour into how much value you're adding and position yourself as a must-have, not a nice-to-have. Home and lifestyle. Home and lifestyle, these are essentially, so when I say home and lifestyle, these are housing related spending. It's been pretty flat, which is good. Think of renovations, decor, home improvement, things like that. Those big ticket items are being postponed and pushed back. Maybe it's not the best time to be finishing your basement, but when you look at the spending of it, if it's flat, that's pretty good. I don't know. I feel like this is probably one of the biggest spaces that if you are a contractor if you are a custom home builder, if you are doing these things, getting in front of this AI recommendation strategy is so important because they are really comparing you. When I just remember going through our renovation at our house, I went to chat and I was like, who are the best contractors in my area? What are their price points? What are their reviews? What do you think would be a best fit for the type of project that we're doing? And it straight up gave me a table. It created a table. It stacked everybody up against each other and it compared them category by category of who's better for us. This is something you have to get ahead of. Like, I don't think people realize how important this is. This is something that, it's going to be the future, how you're being compared. And whether it's, people feeling tight on their budget or they're kind of nervous to make a big purchase like that, or you're in a really good market, people are still going to be comparing these two things, home and lifestyle, right? Comparing these two contractors, comparing these two couches, even like who has the best furniture. I don't know. There's so many things that are going to fall into this category that you have to be mindful of. And if you get ahead of it right now, you're putting yourself in a good position to win when AI is really, truly full force. But you got to know it's happening so fast. Like, people keep saying, I'll wait. No, it's fine. You're going to blink and the opportunity is going to be gone. Other people are doing it. You're not, so don't fall asleep on that, especially if you're in home and lifestyle. Going back to our consumers. So consumers are not moving. They are not upgrading. They are not spending on the home the way that they were in 2025. So furniture, interior, contractors, this affects you. You might be entering a slower phase, which is okay. I think there's one piece of advice that I got where you're not going to always be in steady growth, right? If you are, what a blessing. But there are phases in your business where you grow and then you plateau. Then you grow and then you plateau. And the only way that you get back to growth is that during those plateaus, you take the time to pour into the business, to build the systems, to build the foundation to continue growing. So look at this moment as an opportunity to, yes, of course, continue building trust with your audience, but you got to really look at how can we continue to build our foundation so we are still here when things pick back up and jump back to normal. Let's take a look at beauty and personal care. This one is nuanced because consumers tend to trade down in beauty. So they'll go drugstore instead of Sephora. They'll go more generic than they will brand name. They'll do that before they trade out entirely and say, oh, I can't do it anymore. So expect premiumization reversal where value positioned products gain and luxury loses some ground. People are going to be just getting the same products, right? But the generic version because it's a way to save a few dollars. So keep that in mind as you go. I think your brand story needs to be airtight. Your branding needs to be on point. Your before and afters need to be on point so that people can make this distinction of, okay, fine, it's worth it. I'm not willing to compromise my beauty or my, the things that make me feel good. I'm not compromising those. So I'm going to go to the person that I know is doing it. And how do they know? They look at your social. They look at your digital presence. So don't skimp out if you're in the beauty industry, if you're a hairstylist, if you're a med spa, if you're XYZ, continue with your before and afters. Continue with your content posting, share, create videos. Just keep going, okay? Don't stop, and make sure that you have a strong thread that carries through to a very specific audience in all of your posts. You're attracting a specific type of person, and you need to be very clear on who you're talking to and how you're talking to them for it to resonate and to work. Okay, last but not least, services and coaching, and also consultants. I think this is a big one. When consumers tighten, B2C services feel it fast, especially anything perceived as a want versus a need, right? Coaches, consultants, and creatives, they need to reframe their offer around ROI and necessity, not inspiration, not a nice to have. I think this is going to be a test for a lot of agencies, coaches, etc. If you can deliver results, you're a need to have. If you can't, then you're going to be churning. Okay. So whether you're a marketing agency, whether you're a law firm, accountant, etc., I think there's some of these things that people are going to be taking a hard look at. But the reality is with AI, people are going to also be looking at how much of this can I do with the resources that are now out there. Okay. So you got to get ahead of that. Create options for people to fall back on. If ROI is more of a soft piece for you, I think everything can have some level of either direct or indirect ROI that you really need to dial in that formula for you and see how you're doing that for your clients and prove it to them. If you don't or you can't, I would recommend looking at some type of productization of your service. I'm going to do a shout out right here for those of you who don't know Brooke Burnt. She's a business coach who specializes in helping people productize their service. So if that's something that you want to do, whether it's turning your knowledge of how to start a business or accounting or marketing, etc., into a course or into a, XYZ, she's a great place to start. There's so many others as well. I think the fact of the matter is, if you're a service, start figuring out ways that you can bottle up your knowledge and sell that at a lower price point. Because if you have kind of those two approaches, those two avenues, where you're productizing your service, right? And you're selling that at a lower price point, you're still holding on to the people who are really going to feel it financially or who are emotionally tightening. You can still catch them. And then the people who are doing well and capitalizing still, they're the ones that get that white glove hands-on service. So keep that in mind. Okay. So I kind of went into it, but I want to give you guys some actionable items to stay ahead of this. So create an entry-level offer. This kind of goes into what I was talking about with productizing your service. Before customers leave you, give them a lower commitment way to stay. Smaller packages, a starter product, a payment plan, meet them where they're at. Okay, meet them where their budget is going, not where it was. You need to see where this is going, because it's better to have 50% of what was than to have zero, right? So get ahead of it so that they have that option. Number 2, lead with value, not with price. Do not discount, reframe. Okay. I know I mentioned for restaurants, consider like a family night or whatever, maybe, but here's another thing. You could think of it like this. Here's exactly what you get and why it's worth it. This outperforms 20% off. Okay. People want clarity in what they're paying for. People want clarity in what to expect and why it's worth it, rather than just saying, okay, 20% off. That's 20% off is surface. It's a little empty. You want a little bit more meat there. Consumers are scrutinizing every single dollar, every single spend. So make the value undeniable, not just cheaper. And I'm going to say one thing off of a personal experience I had with somebody recently. I was getting ready to hire a coach. I respect her so much. I still do. But I don't know. I feel like I really need to respect you and see that you're doing it for me to want to hire you as a coach. There has to be some intangible thing that really hits for me to do that. And I know a lot of people that are like that I would love to work with, but there was one woman that I was getting ready to work with. I was scrutinizing all of my dollars, right? Because I know where, I'm doing this type of research. I'm looking at consumer behavior and I see what's potentially coming. So for me to go drop $6,000, $10,000, $12,000 right now, I'm very cognizant of where that money is going. Is it better to go to this or to that? If your prospect says something like that, do not attack them. I mean, I cannot tell you something that loses more trust and goodwill with people than if you shame them because they're not working with you, or you tell them that they are in a scarcity mindset, or tell them that they don't care as much about their business as you do. I think that those things can come off very insensitive and they're a huge turnoff. So don't let your emotions get in the way of you building goodwill and trust with people who are probably going to be clients after this blip. Okay. Do not let your emotions get in the way of how you're treating the people who are considering working with you when they tell you that maybe now's not the right time after all, because you're going to hurt your future self with that approach as well. Tighten your messaging around certainty. People are anxious about the future. It's so much unknown, right? They're not destroyed by the present. They're just worried about the future. So messaging that reduces risk, guarantees, testimonials, transparent pricing, no surprise policies, these types of things are going to convert way better than aspirational or hype-driven copy that tries to evoke emotion. I think people are so emotional right now and making emotional decisions on how they're spending that you want to bring that grounding voice that says, here's what you're going to get. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. It's going to be okay. This is what you're going to get. That's what people need right now. Double down on your existing customers. Ooh, that's good. Acquisition costs more when consumers are hesitant. It's going to take more follow-ups. It's going to take more effort. It's going to cost more to get people. Your warmest audience, past buyers, email subscribers, loyal followers, those are your most valuable asset right now. Retention campaigns, loyalty perks, and re-engagement sequences, those are the things that should be prioritized for you right now, okay? Take care of your people. Take care of your people. Take care of your people. Stock or promote your everyday essential angle. Okay, so groceries rebounded because people have to eat, right? So ask yourself, can you position your product or your service as a necessity, not a luxury? The brands that are winning right now are the ones that feel indispensable. And when you can really figure out how you can be a necessity in your marketing, you are going to see stronger gains through this period of time than you would otherwise. And the last thing I would tell you to close this out is watch your timing on launches. Okay. March, it showed us that even partial bad news, it can tank spending intent really fast. So the world is kind of full of some chaos right now. We got some bad news. We got some good news. There's some good news. I just saw that a scientist in China discovered a cure to diabetes. What? I don't know that anybody's talking about that though. Hopefully that's accurate. Hopefully it wasn't fake, right? But there's just so much. It feels like everything's hanging on a string. Everyone's on edge. Everyone's like feeling like they're walking on eggshells, and any bit of bad news is going to amplify these spending intentions of our consumers. If you have a big launch coming up, make sure your pre-launch nurture is doing heavy lifting on trust and value so consumers can feel ready by the time you launch and ask for the sale. So more than ever right now, pre-launch intention, pre-launch strategy, pre-launch effort is the most important thing. If you're getting ready to release a book, if you're getting ready to launch a podcast, if you're getting ready to launch a business, go hard on social, email, public relations, whatever you can do to build that trust before the day of the launch. Because if you don't do enough and you just put it out, your launches are going to be less successful than they could have been, right? So with all of that, I hope that everyone here listening takes a moment and pauses on where the world is going. And I hope that you realize that as a business owner, you are the economy. You are. I truly believe that. And when we are educated, we can make better decisions. So thank you for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. We'll catch you on the next episode. Remember this as you go about your day today. The ideas that are on your heart for a reason. Do not ignore them. Tune into them. Tap in, lean in, understand them, and pursue them. If not you, then who? If this episode was helpful to you in any way, please like, share, comment, subscribe. It does wonders for our efforts, and it helps us to continue our mission of inspiring entrepreneurs and giving them the resources and the perspective we all need to take it to the next level. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Paresa Noble, and we'll catch you next time.